Police in Myanmar shoot dead one person as a crackdown in protesters continues. The U.S. approves the use of Johnson & Johnson's single-shot COVID-19 vaccine. Hello and welcome. You're watching Africa Live. We're coming to you live from Nairobi. I'm Hannah Viviers. Here are more stories making headlines this hour. In business news, Nigeria outlines plans for a $2 billion infrastructure project to boost the country's transport network. And in your sport, we tell you how Egypt's Al Ahly club coped with increased COVID-19 precautions and regulations. We begin in Nigeria, where authorities are still searching for over 300 schoolgirls kidnapped in Zamfara state. They were kidnapped from a boarding school on Friday. Early on Saturday, gunmen released the 42 people, including schoolboys, abducted in Niger state. They spent at least 10 days in captivity. Their release followed days of tense negotiations. For the latest on the students abducted in Zamfara state, we're now joined by CGTN's Deji Badmus, who is in Lagos. Hi, Deji. Thank you so much for joining us. Deji, what's the latest on the operation to rescue the students who are still missing, and are the security agencies making any headway?
Well, Hannah, the authorities are intensifying the operation now, security operation to get the children rescued. I'm talking about the schoolgirls now. More troops have been moved into the state, more police personnel as well as military assets now have been moved in there. The search is on. What we understand is that the security agents have been able to locate the forest where these girls are being kept. The only reason why they are not storming the place is to prevent any form of casualty now. Now, besides the military operation that is going on, talks are also going on, being led by the governor of that state. That's what we understand. They are not disclosing. The authorities in that state now are not disclosing the details of these talks, but actually we understand the authorities in the state there have been able to identify and locate the leadership of the bandits who carried out the attacks, and that they're actually talking. And what we're getting is that sooner than later, they would reach some kind of agreement, and that these girls would be released. So the way the government is tackling this is tackling it on two fronts. You have the military, the security operation that is going on. So what the government is hoping to do is that, well, if the talks failed, then it might have to consider the military option. But then there's this confidence. The governor has expressed confidence that he would be able to deal with this. He'll be able to talk the bandits now into accepting to releasing the girls. I mean, it's something that he'd done before. He's used to this, so that's why he's pretty confident that he'll be able to deal with this, and that he'd be able to convince the bandits to get the girls released. So we're still waiting, but what we're gathering is that sooner than later, there will be a breakthrough in this incident, and the girls will be released. Hannah?
Deji, we do hope for their safe return. Thank you so much for that. Deji Badmus speaking to us from Lagos. Well, Nigeria has in recent years seen a rise in the kidnapping of students. For more analysis on this issue, we're joined by Christopher Ogbogo, a professor of history at the University of Ibadan. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Student abductions have been recurring for years in Nigeria. What do you believe should be done to secure schools, Professor?
Thank you. Good morning, Hannah. I think that given the frequency, there has to be the sensitization first of the communities where the schools are located to the security realities, and then the sensitization of the students, the teachers, and the workers. There will be need to set up a rapid response squad located somewhere within the communities where these schools are located, such that if an adequate alarm system is set up, either the students, the authorities, the teachers, the workers can trigger off the alarm such that it will get to the rapid response squad and they will be able to respond adequately.
Professor, we know that there are hundreds of students who are still missing. What has been the impact of this on the communities who've lost children, and what has the impact been on education?
Well, very unfortunately, the kidnapping of students from schools seem to tie with the philosophy of the Boko Haram terrorists in the northeastern part of the country, where they say Western education is haram and should be forbidden, it should be avoided. Now, children in the northern part of the country will be afraid to go to school. A number of parents will show significant apprehension to send their wards to school. For instance, the idea of boarding schools, a lot of people will shy away from it. And these are parts of the country that are educationally disadvantaged. So it's going to worsen the effort to promote education in these parts of the country. It's very unfortunate, but it will impact very negatively on promoting Western education, both at the level of the parents and at the level of the children who are supposed to be beneficiaries of this education.
Thank you so much for all that, Professor Christopher Ogbogbo. He's a professor of history at the University of Ibadan. Where a politician in Myanmar says police in the town of Dawei have shot and killed one protester and wounded several during a crackdown today. A doctor in Yangon says one man has been shot dead there too. Police are trying to end weeks of demonstrations against the February 1st military takeover. It was not clear how protesters were hurt, but media reported live fire had been used, and one outlet says that people had been gunned down. Neither the police nor the ruling military council have commented on this yet. The junta leader says authorities have been using minimal force to deal with the protesters and acknowledged at least 3 protesters had died over the days of turmoil. Well, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved a coronavirus vaccine from Johnson & Johnson. It's the third to win approval in the country. And as John Terrett reports, the vaccine has important advantages.
Johnson & Johnson vaccine offers much promise to Americans. When it's finally flowing into arms here, it will increase the number of vaccinations by around 25%. It's the only one-dose vaccine Americans are being offered, and it can be stored at normal temperatures. On Friday, the Food and Drug Administration Advisory Panel met all day to hear some of the specifics about the drug. It's 85% effective in severe cases, 72% effective in the USA, and 66% effective around the world. But it is 100% effective in keeping people alive and keeping them out of hospital. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which are already flowing here in the United States, were tested within the borders of the country. Another difference with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is that it was tested here at home, but also in Latin America, mainly in Brazil and in South Africa. It's effective on the variants. On Sunday, the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, based in Atlanta, Georgia, in the south of the country, will meet to take one more decision, and that will be who should be the priority cases who receive the Johnson & Johnson vaccine once it is widely available. J&J say they have 3.9 million vaccines on trucks ready to go out on Monday. It's disappointing to some that it's not 10 million, which had been anticipated. But the vaccine news generally in America seems to be getting better and better. Only in the last week or so, the Pfizer vaccine was approved for storage at normal temperatures. Prior to that, it had been thought it needed to be stored at super cool temperatures. So now there are 3 vaccines available to Americans, and soon there will be a 4th when the AstraZeneca vaccine is approved in the coming months. And of course, there are vaccines available around the world from China and Russia too. Doctors say take whichever one you're offered first. John Terrett, CGTN, New York.
In recent weeks, there's been a wave of hope growing in Europe that sustained falls in COVID-19 infection rates could finally help the continent turn the tide on the pandemic. But several countries are reporting new outbreaks, which health professionals worry could represent a major reversal in the progress made. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has said that the data points to a possible 3rd wave of the pandemic, with several of her counterparts once again preparing to lock down to help minimize the loss of life. Trent Murray reports from Frankfurt.
In central Prague's busy retail centre, shoppers get their last-minute supplies before the city and the rest of the Czech Republic go back into lockdown. The government has declared another state of emergency, and from Monday the entire country is facing new restrictions. They're the toughest measures the Czech Republic has seen so far, with people banned from leaving their local districts, nurseries shut, and even special schools for disabled children added to the ever-growing list of closures. The Prime Minister is pleading with his country to follow the rules.
Proto vás prosím a žádám.
That's why I beg you and ask. And I understand that our government has made a lot of mistakes in the past. We know that. But we would like you to give us a chance one more time, so that together we'll try to make it through this state of emergency in the next 3 weeks to stop the virus and gradually go back to normal.
It's a similar story in Belgium, where leaders have backtracked on plans to loosen restrictions. Just as much of the country was coming out of a forced winter hibernation, the Prime Minister now says it's time to head back inside.
En pleine tempête.
When there is a storm, you cannot set out. With these figures bringing uncertainty, we cannot ease the measures that are now in place. It would be foolish, reckless and irresponsible. It would be the wrong decision to do so now. This is why the consultation committee between the different Belgian federal and regional authorities has chosen to be careful.
And in Europe's biggest economy, there's renewed concerns that COVID-19 variants could derail recovery plans. Here in Germany, various lockdown measures have been in place since November. Those restrictions were set to possibly expire 1 week from now. But with Germany also starting to see an uptick of cases, there's a growing expectation here that lockdown-wary Germans will once again be asked to continue observing restrictions. The latest round of lockdowns come as the EU's vaccine rollout continues to run behind, with several member states now in discussion about moving supplies around the bloc to help make up shortfalls. France is preparing to send 100,000 doses of its allocated vaccine supply to the Czech Republic. But once the rollout does pick up pace to where health experts want it to be, EU leaders have managed to agree on the introduction of a vaccine passport. It's expected to come by early summer and will be an internationally recognised document that for many will be the golden ticket to venturing beyond borders. Trent Murray, CGTN, Frankfurt.
Sierra Leone has received a donation of COVID-19 vaccines from China. The first batch of the jabs from the China National Pharmaceutical Group will be administered to healthcare workers in the country. The vaccines were received at the Lungi International Airport in Freetown by the Chinese ambassador to Sierra Leone and officials from the health ministry. Meanwhile, in South Africa, there has been a dramatic turn of events in the legal fight over the use of ivermectin, a medication used to treat many types of parasite-related infections. In January, South Africa allowed the limited use of ivermectin to treat COVID-19 cases, but warned that there wasn't enough scientific evidence that the drug could work against the virus. CGTN's Julius and Jamila reports.
Ivermectin is a drug that has been around for many years. It is used for the treatment and control of parasites in animals. It's also used to treat humans for several tropical diseases not commonly seen in South Africa. Recently, there have been public calls for doctors to be allowed to administer the drugs, but South Africa's health authorities are only making it available for controlled use. The drug was initially declared illegal by the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. The regulatory authority warned that there's not enough scientific evidence around the use of the drug, both for safety and efficacy, to either treat or prevent COVID-19. But last month, after legal wrangles, the authority approved a controlled use of the drug on humans. But civil rights group AfriForum, an organization that has been spearheading the fight for the wide usage of the drug, says the drug should never have been banned in the first place. The group says Ivermectin is currently a legally dispensable drug in South Africa due to a technical oversight by the regulatory authority.
The question is ivermectin illegal, as has been alleged by many so far? The fact, and that question can be answered simply, it is not illegal. In fact, it's already listed as a Schedule 3 medicine in the Medicines Act. It's been printed there. It's true. It's always been like that.
At a media briefing, AfriForum announced that the South African drug regulator never published a notice in a government gazette to declare the drug illegal in the first place. This is a requirement as per the Medicines and Related Substances Act, necessitating registration of the drug. The Act also requires that select medicines must be registered prior to any commercial activity.
It's a legal medicine, it's listed in the Act, and in the absence of a call for registration, there's no further need to legalize the medicine. It can be administered as we understand the Act.
It is about giving medical professionals every tool possible in the fight against COVID-19 so that they can also honor the oath they took.
In spite of this new information, AfriForum is still taking the fight to court to ensure the drug is widely available.
We had been to the urgent court, and the urgent court granted an interim order that actually just allowed for the program to be recognized and to be given a chance. And that's where we stand at this stage with the application. They failed during this 30 years to publish the notice inviting the public to register ivermectin. And with that being said, we believe that the whole legal challenge is now on a totally different footing.
The group will now amend its court application to obtain a declaratory order that ivermectin is a legal Schedule 3 medicine and readily available. Yolisa Njomela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Let's now take a short break and return. We'll look at the latest efforts to alleviate hunger in northern Kenya.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia,
Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Nigeria is my home. 160 million vibrant, ambitious individuals constantly seeking the perfect self-expression. It is these people who inspired me to be that person that is seen, to be a voice that is heard, and ultimately to be the anchor that I am. I have to tap in, tune in, and turn on the very best qualities within me to deliver the news. I'm Richard Nta, an anchor for CGTN.
Welcome back. You're watching news making headlines right here on Africa Live. But millions of girls from low-income countries may not be returning to school post-COVID-19. A World Bank report shows that during the pandemic, more girls were at risk of becoming victims of child marriage, early pregnancy, child labor, and other threats. CGTN's Kelechi Mekalam reports on the situation in Nigeria.
I feel so bad. And then I'm so hungry.
The frustrations of a pregnant 15-year-old whose real identity is concealed as she narrates her ordeal.
One of my uncle's friends, he used to come to our house. Sometimes he used to watch film, he used to touch me, he was romancing me, he used to sleep with me.
Fati's life has been on a downward spiral. Dealing with the physical and emotional trauma is hard enough. She's also had to drop out of school. Millions of girls like Fatih have found themselves in similar situations. Their hope of returning to school has been dashed.
They drop out because there's all this manner of stigma. You know, they're made to feel as if they've committed the worst possible offense socially. You know, they're made to feel as if they've broken taboo. And that's one of the reasons why many of these girls hide the pregnancy. Some will not say they're pregnant until they're so advanced, you know, in the pregnancy, and that puts them at risk, maternal risk.
According to a World Bank report, about 11 million girls from middle and low-income countries like Nigeria may never return to school. This is as they become vulnerable to sexual and domestic abuse, forced labor, and underage pregnancy amid the COVID-19 pandemic. For a country like Nigeria, having more girls out of school has far-reaching consequences.
We lose $200 billion every year by not adequately educating and utilizing the female members of our workforce. So that's money lost for the economy. Why do I say that? Is because, you know, most of these women drop out of school, you know, so they're not able to become financially independent in many cases.
Education for the girl child in Nigeria has been at the center of conversations. According to the UN's children agency, UNICEF, 60% of the country's 13.2 million out-of-school children are girls. Factors like religious beliefs, insecurity, poverty, and gender inequality are major drivers of this statistic. It's now exacerbated by the pandemic, destroying the decades of efforts to reverse the trend. Experts say governments may need to enact policies that can support pregnant teens and reintegrate them into the educational system. Kelechi Emekalam, CGTN Abuja, Nigeria.
In Kenya, the National Drought Management Authority has issued an alert over the deteriorating condition of both livestock and households in Mandera County. An ongoing drought since January has been impacting food security in the country's arid northeastern region. CGTN's Daniel Arab Moy spoke to the CEO of Kenya's Drought Management Authority, James Odor.
Good to have you with us, sir.
Good to have you. Thank you and welcome.
Now, what is the reason behind the latest hunger alert in Kenya?
In those pockets, for these dependence crop, there have been crop failure in some of those areas. And that's why we are having this issue. So it's an alert.
So how many people have been affected?
About 1.4 million people now are affected, need assistance in terms of food, maybe in terms of health and malnutrition issues, in terms of support on livestock activities, water and all this.
Why do these crises keep happening?
Drought shows that there's a problem somewhere and you must tackle that problem. And that problem is poverty, is that people are not resilient. People don't have the capacity to deal with the situation.
What are the best ways to help?
We need to look at issue of peace building and conflict management. We need to look at issues of livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods. We need to look at the issues of infrastructure. We need to look at the issues of human capital, health and nutrition.
How much money do you need to address the situation?
From our contingency plans and response plan, what is required to intervene in this period from January up to end of March in all the sectors. I mentioned the water, I mentioned the livestock, I mentioned peace building and conflict management, I mentioned health and nutrition, something like $200 million US.
South Africa is part of a global study to test a new antibiotic for gonorrhea. The pathogen is among 12 bacteria families prioritized by the World Health Organization for the development of antibiotics. Gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease that is becoming increasingly resistant to current treatment and is posing a public health challenge globally. CGTN's Julie Shire reports.
South Africa is one of 4 countries conducting phase 3 testing on a new antibiotic called zoliflodacin to treat gonorrhea. The sexually transmitted disease is unresponsive to many treatments, making it difficult to manage.
Often
there are no symptoms. And so people don't know that they have gonorrhea, and that's why there's such a prevalent spread of infection. The antibiotics that we have available to treat gonorrhea are no longer as effective because the gonorrhea organism has developed strategies to evade antibiotics. This new trial is really looking at developing a new antibiotic for gonorrhea, so that could treat resistant gonorrhea.
The study includes 1,000 participants from South Africa, the US, the Netherlands and Thailand. They're split into 2 groups and are given either the new drug or existing medicines.
They will be followed up for a period of time, and we will compare cure rates in the 2 groups. If there is minimal difference between the 2 groups, we can say that the new drug is as good as existing treatments. In some instances, it's possible to declare that it's better, but our goal is really to show that it's no worse than the existing treatments. And that would be a first step then in a process to obviously license this product and then consider how to introduce it into the health system.
80 million people suffer with gonorrhea every year. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest number of cases. South Africa counts for over 2 million. More worryingly, the country has the highest HIV burden in the world, with more than 7 million people living with the virus.
People who get gonorrhea are at higher risk for HIV because obviously their sexual practices that put them at risk for gonorrhea could also put them at risk for HIV. And also what we know is that the inflammation that's caused by gonorrhea can make people more susceptible or more infectious for HIV.
Doctors are crossing their fingers the new drug will work against gonorrhea. South Africa will also be able to access the drug if it's approved, shielding many from the risk of HIV. Julie Shire, CGTN, Cape Town, South Africa.
Tanzania has launched its first highway interchange. President John Magufuli will be, while officiating the event in Dar es Salaam, said that the new infrastructure would help ease traffic jams. The interchange is also expected to reduce economic losses due to transportation delays. CGTN's Joy Kuruki Juma reports.
The Ubungo interchange in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, now renamed Kijazi Interchange. President John Magufuli, while officiating the launch, said the change in name was in honor of Chief Secretary and Ambassador John Kijazi, who died recently.
Kijazi has done great work in the construction sector here in the country. All these projects in Dar es Salaam, market projects, bus terminals, and so forth. He has the head of the chief secretaries in council. Therefore, in one way or another, he has contributed much to the achievement of these projects.
The project by the China Civil Engineers Company was started in 2017. The interchange is one of several infrastructure projects expected to ease transport challenges in the city.
As we promised this year, we will construct about 10 bridges in Dar es Salaam to reduce jams and accidents. You have been witnessing a great transformation in the streets in the last 5 years. We have spent more than 1 trillion shillings to do the changes in Dar es Salaam streets. Here we are constructing an 8-way road. Others are saying it is too big, but that is Dar es Salaam.
Tanzania has also embarked on infrastructural projects aimed at easing transportation of people and goods to other regions. Joy Keruki Juma, CGTN.
Well, it's time now for us to take a short break and return your business news, including Nigeria outlines plans for a new $2 billion infrastructure project to boost the country's transport network.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced that it's looking for asset managers for a $2 billion infrastructure project. President Buhari approved the formation of InfraCorp recently to allow for infrastructural development. The project is expected to boost Nigeria's transport network as well as economic growth. Interested parties have up to March the 16th to submit proposals. The Central Bank, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and the Africa Finance Corporation have said that they will raise initial capital for the investment. Nigeria recovered from economic recession in the fourth quarter of 2020 despite contraction the entire year. Well, South Africa's liquor industry has been facing many challenges over the past year. Alcohol-related businesses have suffered revenue losses and have had to carry out wide-scale retrenchments through the country's prolonged COVID-19 lockdown. But one local brewer has managed to survive the economic shocks by adding non-alcoholic products to its offerings. CGTN's Julie Shire tells us more.
Local craft brewer Devil's Peak found itself in a spot of bother when the hard lockdown hit in March last year. To soften the blow, it switched from making premium craft beer to non-alcoholic drinks.
The management team got together and we realized, look, if we're going to be locked down for an extended period of time, we need to start making other plans. So we've got a brilliant non-alc product. We launched different variants within that non-alc beer, Devil's Peak Hero. Our group accounts team started contacting every single buyer, getting us listed in as many groups as possible.
We've always been quite hop focused, and the passion still lies there. And making a non-alcoholic beer is no real difference between that and some of our alcoholic, like our pale ales and our Blockhouse, King's Blockhouse IPA. It's the same process. We still ferment, we still use a lot of hops.
In a time when the beer industry in South Africa faces severe hardship, Devil's Peak has found a way of staying afloat, and this non-alcohol hero has saved the company from going under.
It forced us to start looking at export opportunities because prior to that we had a small number of countries we were exporting to, but since then, we're probably available in more than 15 countries globally now. And countries as far and wide as mainland China, Hong Kong, Singapore.
The 12-year-old brewer kept production lines busy despite multiple alcohol bans. It limited costs, grew its e-commerce division, and staved off retrenchments. But it knows the rest of the industry is still reeling.
So what you're seeing at the moment is retail is only open 4 days a week. And we can see the reduction in our overall sales volumes flowing through the retail environment, and we can see an overall reduction in our volumes flowing through bars and restaurants. And I expect it to continue for at least the next 6 months until some form of vaccine rollout takes place on quite a large scale in SA.
7,400 jobs have been shed and revenue losses have climbed to $14.2 billion since the lockdown, prompting fears that the lifting of the ban has come too late for most small brewers. Julie Shara, CGTN, Cape Town, South Africa.
Over the United States, U.S. House lawmakers have approved President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package. The administration says it will help to stabilize the economy and give relief to struggling Americans. Toby Muse has more from Washington.
The House of Representatives passed a $1.9 trillion stimulus package in the early hours of Saturday morning. The White House hopes this will stabilize a weakened economy in the middle of this pandemic. The vote was almost entirely on party lines, with all Republicans voting against the package and 2 Democrats joining them. The legislation now heads to the Senate, where it is expected to be amended.
Now the bill moves to the United States Senate, where I hope it will receive quick action. We have no time to waste. If we act now, decisively, quickly, and boldly, we can finally get ahead of this virus. We can finally get our economy moving again. And the people of this country have suffered far too much for too long. We need to relieve that suffering.
Under this bill, there will be stimulus payments of up to $1,400, billions in additional unemployment benefits, as well as more money to states whose finances have been battered by the pandemic. Republicans complain that the bill is too big and they want to see something much smaller. They say potentially millions of families could receive thousands of dollars in stimulus checks even though they haven't suffered any setback due to the pandemic. These arguments are likely to be repeated when it's debated in the Senate. Part of the bill was a raise in the minimum wage to $15 by the year 2025. However, Democrats suffered a reversal Thursday when the Senate parliamentarian ruled it would not be allowed in the reconciliation measure. Still, some Democrats are demanding it stay in there. Many Republicans oppose the wage hike, saying it will put too much pressure on small businesses. The Democratic leadership has said that they may be prepared to drop the wage hike in order to get this stimulus package passed quickly. However, they say they remain committed to raising the wage at some point in the future. Toby Muse reporting for CGTN, Washington.
China says its per capita GDP has topped $10,000 for 2 consecutive years. Official data shows per capita GDP increased by 2% last year, reaching more than 72,000 yuan, around $11,000. In January, China announced its GDP growth of 2.3% in 2020. The total was over 100 trillion yuan, around over $15 trillion. Well, South Africa is ready to re-up the benefits of decade-long research and development project in hydrogen fuel cell technologies. President Cyril Ramaphosa says the project is ready to move into the implementation phase and will see a significant boost in local manufacturing of low-carbon technologies. Sumitra Naidoo reports.
Fuel cell technology is gaining popularity around the world as a clean energy source. South Africa is well placed to expand the use of this technology as it holds 80% of the world's reserves of platinum group metals, which is a key input of fuel cell technology. Hydrogen fuel cells produce electricity by means of a chemical reaction. Platinum is the catalyst.
We are establishing a Platinum Valley as an industrial cluster which brings together various hydrogen applications in the country to form an integrated hydrogen ecosystem. This initiative will identify concrete project opportunities to kickstart hydrogen cell manufacturing in promising hubs. It will also facilitate the commercialization of homegrown intellectual property.
Researchers heading the project believe using hydrogen as an energy carrier could potentially reduce South Africa's dependence on fossil fuels and help to reduce greenhouse gas emissions.
The intention of this Platinum Valley is to create an area where the use of hydrogen fuel cell technologies can be increased where it makes sense, but also so that's really increasing the use of fuel cell technologies in the automobile sector, so heavy duty trucks, buses, also really showing that you can have the penetration of what we call clean energy technologies.
Fuel cell technology fits perfectly in with South Africa's minerals beneficiation strategy, which identifies PGMs as strategic minerals to support job creation and diversification of the economy through green technology. Fuel cells are already powering several off-grid projects in the country. These include a high school in Limpopo and the one military hospital as a response to COVID-19.
So what we hope to do is create an environment of learning, adoption of new technologies, reducing the barriers all in one area. But also I think what's exciting for us is the innovation or development of this country. And it hasn't been what we call equal.
The demand for PGMs is expected to boom this year as more countries around the world move to reduce their carbon emissions and tightened legislation. South Africa is well positioned to benefit from both higher prices and increased output, which will help it to move full steam ahead with its fuel cell technology. Sumitra Naidoo, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, let's stay in South Africa, which is a melting pot of cultures and traditions with 11 official languages and a myriad of rituals and customs. That diversity is also reflected in the food, in particular traditional food. CGTN's Yelitsin Jamela takes a look at South Africa's culinary traditions.
According to South Africa's Center of Excellence in Food Security, local traditional foods are nutrient-rich, are not processed, and have a long history of supporting health and wellness. The organization focuses on innovative research and critical inquiry to enable South Africa to tackle the challenges of food. Some nutritionists say many communities have neglected the importance of traditional food intake. As a result, they suffer the negative effects of eating junk food. But many continue to strive to make nutritious traditional food. Johannesburg resident Stolubuhle Mpofu is one of those. She's a working mother of 2, but insists on making time to make this kind of food for her family.
I like cooking traditional food just because it's healthy for my children and my husband. It has vitamins, proteins, and minerals. I like mkhoti, spinach, and pap. Junk food is not healthy. It's easy to get them, but you will be always taking money to the doctor just because you like easy thing. Homemade food is the best.
On the day we visit her, she's making mala mogodu or tripe, murogo or African spinach, and mabele or sorghum. Sorghum is an indigenous African grain. The grain can be ground into flour and used for making bread and porridge. It can also be fermented into sour porridges and beers. Murogo is the name used in South Africa's Sesotho language for many types of leafy green vegetables. The greens are also known as African spinach. It's a good source of protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals.
Murogo is very good. It's healthy. Even my kids love it. The food I make boosts the immune system of my children. You'll never find them having flu or such, so I don't have to always get medication for them. Even taking them to the clinic is rare now.
On the other hand, tripe is popular as an affordable source of protein and nutrients.
They are very healthy. They are very cheap and affordable. Even though you're not working, you can go and buy them and cook for your kids. Another thing with umkhoti, it's very rich in proteins.
Even so, Mpofu is well aware that she's unable to completely stay away from the ever quickly available junk food, as her daily responsibilities don't allow enough time to indulge in traditional cuisine. Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, let's now take a short break and return some sport action, including Egypt's Al Ahly Football Club speaks about coping with increased COVID-19 precautions and regulations.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks,